Well, just a quick recap that we have. We went through the basics of it, uh, the virtualization concepts, and we went through the ESX and ESX differences. So ESX is basically a hypervisor, a virtualization platform that will, that is a base platform where we're gonna install the ESX server. And on top of your ESX server, I said we're gonna create the virtual machines. And I'm sorry, guys. Yeah. So on top of the ESX server, we're gonna create the virtual machines, and obviously on the virtual machines, we're gonna install the operating system and all. But at a base level, I believe all of you understand what exactly the virtualization, different type of virtualization, server virtualization, need for it, benefits of it, hypervisor, type of hypervisors, difference between ESX, ESXi, and you know what is that required to install the ESX server. And today I wanted to demonstrate the installation and configuration of the ESX server quickly to start with. So this is a lab that we're gonna do now, for which you all know that you need at least 2 CPU cores, 2 CPUs with VT enabled, right? VT enabled, 4 GB of RAM minimum of. We're gonna create 40 GB HDD, a minimum of 1 NIC card. Okay, and then I have a 6.0 ISO file ready with me. One second, guys.
Yes, did you guys receive any material from the last 2 classes?
Yeah, I text to Roshan, but I haven't got anything. He said no. But at least we have to have at least PDF just to recap us.
So the problem is
Oh, he
I'm
sent
kind
it.
of
He sent some. Oh,
can you hear me? Yeah. Problem is I have the recorded videos, but I was looking for some hosting space. We are actually talking to what is that? S3, Amazon S3, and we are also talking to the Dropbox in order to have some space. So I'm actually talking to Roshan in order to have a complete, full-fledged solution for storing the videos and having a complete access on them. So that's the delay. Otherwise, I have the material ready for you. That's every day I'm recording the session, even now. Okay, so it is a matter of a day or two. You will definitely have the recorded at least by weekend.
I'm sorry to cut you off.
Well, to back to the topic. So all we are talking about is installation of the ESX server. I said you need 2 CPUs, VT enabled, 4 GB RAM, 40 GB hard disk, and 1 network interface card at least. And you need a 6.0 ESX 6.0 image, ESXi 6.0 image that is readily available. So that you just need a server, right? Server with above configuration. What am I going to do is I'm going to use a virtual machine to have a server ready with this configuration. Probably I just say cut this point, I put here, right? And this is a configuration that you're actually looking at, a server with below configuration. This is what we read in the document yesterday, and that's what our understanding. So what are we going to do is we are going to do interactive installation. Okay, so once we do the interactive installation, I'll take you through the post installation steps. So with this, let's quickly jump on to the practicals. Like I said, I'm going to leverage the workstation for this particular practical. Okay, so so workstation is an application, the VMware workstation. By now we all must have downloaded it, and you all must have it readily available. So for better segregation, I'm just creating a folder here. Sorry, I'm just creating a folder here. So I'm just give a name called Amvotech, and whatever the VMs that gonna get create, I'm going to put them in this particular folder so that we can have that inventory hierarchy arranged. So from here, I can do new virtual machine over here, or I can go to file over here and I can say new virtual machine. Either way I can do it. So I'm just choosing the typical way of creating a VM. You can either give the ISO location now or you can choose later. That's fine. Next. This is where you need to choose the operating system. I'm trying to install ESXi 6.0. So next. Here is where you need to give a name. So what I do is by default it get installed into my C drive. So C drive, since I have very low space left, I'm going to go into my D drive. I have a folder called workstation, and inside the workstation I'm going to create a folder called Amvotech. Okay, and inside Amvotech, for each ESX server I'm going to create a folder. For each ESX server I'm going to create a folder because the ESX server will have multiple files created. So when you put everything into the same folder, you will really get confused which file belongs to which ESX server. That's the reason I wanted to create separate folder for each server. So I wanted to call Amvo ESX01. So that way we know that is a ESX server 01, the first server. So this is what I have to give here, Amvo ESX01, and I also have to give the location here. Instead of C drive, I'm giving it D drive, workstation, Amvotech, and the folder that I've created for this particular ESX server. That way, and tomorrow when I'm done with this particular lab, I certainly can go there and delete the folder so that I can reclaim the space of my hard disk. So next. So like I said, 40 GB is a default thing. I'm just continuing with that, but you can give a try of creating a server with very less hard disk space and see how does it go. And don't change any setting here. Let it go. And this is a summary of your selection. Nothing rocket science. It is all very basic and simple click that you have to do. And I'm just dragging and dropping it into the folder that I have, Amvotech. And now, if you actually see, I've got 4 GB RAM, 2 CPUs, 40 GB hard disk, CD drive, and the network adapter is actually connected to the NAT, network address translation. So I have to change it. I said I wanted to change it to the host only adapter that I have, host only, because I told you, right, the host only is like any mission that you're gonna create over here. Let's say this is my this box. Inside this, if I create ESX1, create one more ESX, create one more ESX, and if I put all these ESX servers into host only network, they can certainly talk to each other, and they can talk to this host mission as well, the base mission, but they cannot talk to the external world. They cannot talk to the internet, or they cannot talk to the external world. That's what I need. Okay, I want my VMs to communicate to each other. That's all. So that's the reason I am putting everything into host only. But if you need your VMs to communicate over the internet, then you say bridge and replicate the physical connection. Then VM that you're going to create here will get the internet connectivity. But that is something I don't want. Okay, I just say host only, and I'm okay. Now you see the network setting is set to host only. That's perfect. I go to edit settings, and I have to mount the ISO, because if you power it on, there is no operating system mounted, so it doesn't go anywhere. So I have to choose the CD drive here, which I already have in my D drive. If I go to software repository, VMware software 6.0 collection, VMvisor is what the one that I have got here. Okay, so I'm going to give you the access to download these files from the Google Drive. I will do it right away while you are in the class, so that I know there is no delay, in sending the files, receiving the files, and all that. Okay, so now if I just power on this machine, the ESX installation process will kick off. You see, it says the first option is install ESXi 6.0, a standard installer, or you can also say boot from local disk. So when you say boot from local disk option and you say enter, it is not going to, I mean, there is nothing on the hard disk, the 40 GB hard disk that we provided. It is a blank hard disk, brand new hard disk. So nothing in there, so it will not install anything. So I have to choose the first option and say enter. Now it will load the files, and it will once the files are loaded, you can see here loading the ESXi files, and once the files are loaded, it will certainly go ahead and complete the installation. While the installation is going on, I wanted to send you the files. Okay, as you see here, it says welcome to the ESXi 6.0 installation. And this is the link that I shown you, that every time you have to install ESX server, it's better that you go through the compatibility check and check if the server hardware is actually compatible or not. Okay, and I say I'm just pressing enter on my keyboard, and then I have to press F11 in order to accept the license agreement. It is scanning the hardware devices that the server has got. So you see, it has discovered the 40 GB hard disk that we give to the virtual machine. So that should be good. So in order to select that particular hard disk and continue with the installation, you just press enter over there. And this is a keyboard layout. Of course, most 90-95% of the times it's US default that we all follow. So the keyboard layout stays as it is. Of course, we have to give a super password, to secure our ESX root login. So this is a password for your root user. You can see here and say enter. So it is scanning the system information, the entire set of hard disks that you have got, and every single hardware component that the server has got, and it'll check if it has got the drivers or not and the right modules and all. And from then it will take at least 5 minutes to complete the installation of the ESXi server. So the entire process of installing the ESX server would not be 10-15 minutes, beyond 10-15 minutes, because it is lightweighted operating system. As I said yesterday, it is just 200 MB of a file, the operating system size. And when you wanted to install it, it can be installed on a pen drive, it can be installed on a hard disk. So it is so simple and very lightweighted. You see, this is a last prompt that you get before you confirm or you can cancel. So once you say install, and you will not get any prompts to escape or to skip, right? So I just say F11 on my keyboard. That's all. It just go ahead with the installation. Well, while the installation is going on, I am actually working here to send you the documents. Sorry, the link to download the software. So, well, you all have got a link now. So I would request all of you to download the software. It has got everything. So it has got, I give you a direct access on the root folder. So everything available in the folder can be downloaded. So it includes your vCenter, your ESX and everything. So you need to find the right set of file, guys. Don't confuse with don't mess up with the wrong file, and don't come back to me saying that you are not able to install it. You again make a note of this file. You have a file here. This is about 348 MB. This is 348 MB because it has got the operating system and the universal drivers as well. So drivers that fits most operating systems, right? It says VMweiser installer, and there you've got something else called VIM setup all, which is a vCenter server, which is likely about what 2.6 or 2.7 GB in size. So it is just 350 MB. That you need to remember it. Okay, you download this and you download the workstation application and start practicing the things. You see, installation completed successfully. Just remove the CD drive if at all any, and you press enter to restart. I'm just pressing enter over here. Okay, so I request all of you to check your email IDs, because you must have received a mail by now. Yeah, so to share the videos, what I'm thinking is I'm going to create a YouTube channel, and in that channel I'm going to upload all these videos series, order wise. I'll put some number as well so that you can easily identify the numbers and the description to that video file. So you probably can search maybe Venkat Kurela with my name, so that you will find my channel. You can subscribe to it. Whenever there is a new file added to the playlist, you can certainly check on it. Well, you see the server boot, it's up and running now. Now, so this is a time to talk about the post installation steps. Okay, so you see here, it says different ways of accessing your accessing your ESXi server. You can use your vSphere client. I don't have to tell you what exactly the vSphere client. It is a C# based developed application, which is a desktop based application. This is a piece of exe file that you need to download on your machine. So you need to install it. Okay, and once you install it, it'll give you a prompt to put the host name or IP address and the credentials. So that way you can certainly do it. And the other way of accessing the ESX server is web client. A third one is PuTTY. Fourth one is the PowerShell. So certainly, I mean, I'm just going to show you how exactly can you do all these three different ways of accessing the ESX server now. And probably from there I can tell you, I can talk about the post installation steps then. Okay, so to start with now, this is how your vSphere client looks like. When you open it up, it asks you for the host name or the IP address, your username and the password. If I just open up the server back again, this is 192.168.1.158. Okay, 1.158. That is a DHCP assigned IP address. By now you should know what is a DHCP. So the first thing, 158. So the username is root. The password is the one that we have given during the installation. So it's SSL certificate warning. It says, it looks like untrusted source. So should I, proceed ahead? I said yes, you can. So you can see here your evaluation license will expire within 60 days, meaning not just me, even you can also register with VMware by providing your personal information, your email ID, some basic information about you, and you can download the ESX server, the vCenter server, and you can practice them for 60 days. You can evaluate them for 60 days. And it also says assign a license key if you have any. If you have any, it will definitely take you there and you have to assign a license key. But since we do not have any license key, I do not want to put license key over there. I'm sorry. Yeah. So now, so as you see, this particular user interface, this is called the inventory in the left hand side. In the bottom here, you see these are the recent tasks and events. Whatever you do here on the ESX server will be captured here with some basic information, who has done it, what is the activity, is that successful or in progress or not or failed. You see it is initiated by a root user. Okay, if you can come here and you can say click over here on the test task so that you can just minimize it. And here over here it says evolution mode, 60 days remaining, and the user that is logged in is root. Okay, so in the general section you see here the configuration of the ESX server. It says the manufacturer is VMware and model and platform is also VMware. Otherwise what it should show you is like uh, the model, okay, the make and model of the ESX server. For example, the hardware. Let me show you. If you see here, this guy also says it is VMware INC, but let me see if Yeah, you see here on the ESX server it says manufacturer Dell and the model is PowerEdge 2950. So Dell 2950. So this is how server looks like, okay, if it is a physical server. But in our situation, since we have installed the ESX server on top of a virtual machine, the VMware virtual machine, so it started populating the data as VMware INC. Otherwise, it would have shown you like how you are seeing here in the page, like the Dell PowerEdge 2950 or whatever the appropriate hardware model is. You will be shown that particular model. I was just looking for some other example to show you maybe. Well, I'm not able to find the one, one more example to show you. Okay, otherwise this is how it looks like, but the VMware version is ESXi 4.0. Here it is. It's like quite old one. It's very old one. So one that we are working on currently is, you can see here, ESXi 6.0, and you can see the evaluation remaining is 60 days. So this is a summary details of your server configuration, that you have got two processors. The processor is of i5 440. It is running on evaluation mode, two cores, one socket. Hyperthreading is inactive. So you can see all the information that is related to your configuration, and this is the real-time utilization of the ESX server. So out of 2 into 3.192 gigahertz of CPU capacity, 64 megahertz is what the CPU utilization is currently. And out of 4 GB RAM that you give, 1.3, almost like 1 GB is what 1.2 GB is what being utilized currently. And this is a data store. Like I said, the data store is kind of file system in VMware. I'll talk about it when we go to the storage section, but for now try to understand, of the 40 GB hard disk that we gave, close to 8 GB is actually used by the operating system, and the remaining 32 GB is actually is left free for us to store something. Even in Windows, if you actually see the C drive, if you install operating system on a 100 GB capacity hard drive, and if your operating system installation takes some 40 GB capacity of it, the remaining 60 GB is left free for you to put some files, install some applications, any of your usage, right? So the same case here, uh, out of 40 GB hard disk, 8 GB is what utilized by the operating system installation, and the remaining 32 GB is actually given for us for the usage. You can put ISO files over there, we can create a virtual machine, and we can store the virtual machine related files over there. And that is the base use case in virtualization. If it is a regular world, we would have definitely put in some media files, anything of that sort. But in VMware, we mostly we can only put the virtual machine or the ISO files, that because that makes sense here. And you can see at this point of time there is only one port group created. If you guys don't understand the terminology that I'm using, don't worry, you will get to know it as we progress in this particular course. And if I go to the virtual machine here, in the same summary section, if you see here in the bottom side, you can see the common tasks that you can do on a ESX server. You can create a virtual machine by doing it. So you can create a resource pool, you can put that into maintenance mode, you do a restart and shut down it, right? These are the bullet kind of easily accessible shortcuts. Alternately, you can do a right click over here and you can find the same set of options available when you do a right click on the ESX server directly. And when I go to virtual machines tab, if there are any virtual machines running here, you would easily find them. But currently there are no virtual machines running, so you cannot see them. Resource allocation is about which virtual machine is taking how much of CPU, how much of memory, and what is the share value of it, and the percentage of shares. Well, like I said again, I wanted to repeat, if any of the terminology that I'm using, if you are not, definitely will not understand, don't worry, because we're gonna cover everything in detail. A performance tab is similar to your task manager in Windows, wherein you can see the real-time CPU, memory, network, disk utilization. Well, if it is just the ESX server, yes, it is real time, but if it is in the vCenter server, you can see the historical data as well, meaning what happened, what was the utilization of CPU yesterday at 12 noon, or 1 month back 12 noon, 1 year back 12 noon. You can see all that information because this data will get stored into the database. Uh, uh, it's a different discussion altogether. Again, we will go there. Okay, for now, just understand this performance is a tab where you can see the performance related information. And the configuration is one tab that administrators use very oftenly to do any kind of configuration at a ESX server level. So I would request you to be familiar with all these tabs and what option can be found where. Users is the local users of the ESX server, but we never create any local users at a ESX server level. But creating a user is just creating add. But we never create the users at a ESX level, server level, as the ESX server get connect with vCenter server, and the vCenter server is integrated with your Active Directory, and of course the vCenter server has also got the single sign-on server that will help your users to get authenticate, get a RSA token or a STS token. Token is nothing but a valid timestamp, so that the user session is valid until the timestamp is provided in the STS. Events, well, this is like what has happened on the server and who has done it at what time, and all that. Permissions, users are different and the permissions are different. It's about authentication and the authorization. So permissions are more into authorization. What can he do? Root user is an administrator. Of course, the DCUI is also an administrator, VPXA. All three users, the default users, are the administrators on the server. But we don't use VPXA user nor the DCUI. We only use a root user in order to log in and make use of it. Well, I hope you are familiar with the vSphere client at least. And I say if you go to home, you see the inventory, roles, and system logs. Inventory is nothing but the same screen that we were in and on which we have worked so far. If I go back to home and you see the roles, it is where you can actually define a role, and you can see here no access role is not assigned to anybody, nor the read-only access. But if you see, the administrator role is actually assigned to 3 different users here, and 3 different users are the default users. If you wanted to create a role, you can create your own role, customized role. Maybe you've got a monitoring team in your environment and you want them to monitor your environment only. Then you can certainly give some alarms as a privilege. You say, hey, monitoring, let's say team, and you just say okay. When you create the users, you assign this role, so when they authenticate themselves into the environment, and this particular role will get assigned to them, they can only monitor, and if they see something abnormality, they have to call the technical teams, that is you. Okay, so this is about your vCenter, guys. I mean, the same set of features can be found here, going to the file, edit settings, view, inventory, but more or less the same whatever we've discussed so far. So this is the first way of accessing your ESX server. So we have done vSphere client overview of it as well. And then I'm going to take you through the PuTTY session. So PuTTY is a client that can be downloaded from the internet. It is a command line interface. Even it's the same case here. You just have to give the host name or the IP address. So 192.168.1.158, right? And you say open. It says the network connection is refused. Why is it so? Well, I'll come back and talk about it now, later point of time. And the third option I said, the web access. So it is again 192.168.158. Say advanced, proceed. So this is how the web access of your vSphere client, I mean your ESX server, looks like. You may ask me a question initially, Venkat, how do I get this vSphere client? I already saw that was already installed on your desktop. Well, it was. If it is you, you just can say download vSphere client for Windows. You just click over here, it will go and it will start download of the vSphere client from the internet you see here, and the size is about 350 MB and it is a exe file you see here. Once the file is downloaded onto local machine, you just install it. I mean, no rocket science over there. It is a general thing that you can easily able to do it. Okay, so when you install the ESX server, it is better that you do a web access of it. Web access is nothing but putting the IP address of the ESX server into the browser, and it don't even ask you for the credentials. And you just say download vSphere client for Windows. That will get you there. Okay, this is how it looks like when you do a web access. So you have seen uh, how does a vSphere client access look like, how does the web client look like, and PuTTY, I said there is some configuration change that you need to do in order to allow the PuTTY connection to the ESX server. And the one more left was the PowerShell, PowerCLI. So PowerCLI is this. So this is again a software that you need to install. It is an extension to the Windows PowerShell that you all have. So on top of the Windows PowerShell, VMware has developed some commands, and those commands, when you download this particular tool and uh, when you install it on your machine, the commandlets, the VMware commandlets will go get integrate with your Windows PowerShell modules, so that you just have to launch the client like this and you say connect VI server, and the server name or the IP address is what you have to give. So it is the same client that we use to connect to ESX server and to the vCenter server. Well, it is asking for the credentials, root, and the super strong password that we have configured. You can see here, now we have connected to this host on port number 443 as a user called root. Okay, so you can say get VM host, maybe a command that is in VMware. So with that you will get to see the details. So this is the host. The status is connected. Yes, the host is in power on state. It has got two network interface cards. The current CPU utilization is 92 megahertz. CPU total capacity is 6384 megahertz. If you just wanted to select the few uh, you know uh, a few what I say, the properties of it, you can see the properties here saying the GM get members property over there, and you can choose them. Learning PowerShell is again something different. Okay, we are not going there and we are not focusing on the PowerShell, but I'm just telling you this is a command line interface that you can use in order to connect to the ESX server. Most of the times the PowerShell is basically uh, PuTTY, web access, PowerCLI. Well, the PowerCLI is used for uh, reporting purpose and for automation. Web access is like no real use case until 6.0. In the 6.5, the ESX server can be directly accessed using the web client and can be managed as the vSphere client is doing here, because the vSphere client is no longer available in 6.5. Okay, so I mean, unless to download the vSphere client, there is no real reason that you should actually do a web access of it. PuTTY, yes, it is a CLI access to host, and you can do a lot of configuration changes, and you can also analyze the logs. If there is something wrong with the ESX server, most of the times if I have to troubleshoot any situation, any issue, I find doing a PuTTY access to the ESX server in order to find the log file and search through it is what I feel very easy. Okay, I say for log analysis, and the vSphere client is for most administrative. activities, right? Almost all administrative activities vSphere client is being used. So far you have seen the vSphere client, web access and the PowerShell. Putty is something that I said I'll cover it to you later. And the post installation steps. Guys, you remember and tell me when you install the Windows operating system, what did you do? You change the host name, change the IP address to static, and you configure NTP for time synchronization. Maybe you can disable the firewalls of Windows operating system, enable the remote desktops and all. I mean, there are many other things that you could do in a in a Windows operating system. But here, what you can do is you can do the management network configuration, which is configuring the static IP for the ESX server. You can do the troubleshooting options, which is exactly what the putty is allowed over there. I'll show you how to do that. And then you have got the change network connection and the system information. I'll show you how to change different settings available in ESX direct console access, and explore vSphere client, which is what we have just done. So right, we have logged into vSphere client, we have explored it. So apart from the vSphere client, putty, web access and PowerShell, there is one more left, that is called direct access. Okay, direct access. This is called DCUI, direct console user interface. Okay, how do you get there? It's simple. This is how you get there. Direct console is this. So since it is a VMware virtual machine that is hosted on my machine, it is very easy for me to bring the console to you. But think if it is a physical server that is hosted in a data center, how do I get there? Well, if you guys remember the basics of server hardware or server hardware plus that you watched through, he talked about the remote management tools. There he talked about DRAC, ILO, RSA or KVM, different remote management tools of the server. Okay, so using which you have to make the connectivity to the servers that are in the remote data center. This is one of the important topic. You may have to go back to the videos and see the same topic again, but when you get to work tomorrow, you part of your daily administrative tasks, you definitely have to get there and check your ESX server status, troubleshoot it or whatnot. Many times you have to get there, right? I request you to go through it again. Now how do I go there? And just doing a full screen over here, and in the bottom left hand side it says F2 to customize, or right hand side it says F12 to shut down or restart. I'm just pressing F2 over here, F2 over here. I put the password. The very first option you see here, configure the password. Okay, when I say enter, it will prompt me to give the old password, new password, and confirm me the password. Okay, so I certainly do not want it to go there, and I certainly do not want it to go there and change the password. Otherwise I would have done it so, but I'm happy with the password that I have. I just say escape, but you can change it there. There's an option available. Then you can configure the management network where you can actually change your IP address. So what I wanted to do is the first option, I just say enter on this option, configure management network. And by the way, your mouse will not work in this particular console. This is all the keyboard that you have to use. So up arrow, downward arrow, enter is to select a particular option. To come out of it, you have to press escape on the keyboard. So only the keyboard that you have to use. Okay, so now I'm just pressing enter over here so that I get into it. Now if I wanted to see how many network interface cards that I have, I just press enter so that there is only one network adapter, that's called VMNIC 0, and the status is connected. Okay, I'm fine. And the VLAN is a virtual LAN that is to isolate the traffic or to minimize the broadcast domain on the layer 2 switches or layer 3. We will talk about it extensively when we get to the networking topics of the ESX server, but for now we are not using any VLANs in our lab, so I'm not putting any value over there. But otherwise it is a valid number between 0 to 4094. It can be anything between 1 to 4094. And then this is exactly where you'll be configuring your IP4, IPv4. I say enter over there. There are three options: disable IPv4, use a dynamic IP, use a static IP. So this is the one that I wanted to use. since it is a first host, so guys, again, when you go through the networking basics, there is something called network ID and something called host ID. So 192.168.1 is the network ID, that is a subnet, and the last 3 octs are the host ID. So since it is a first host of our network, I wanted to say 51. So the second host will get an IP address of 52. Third host will get an IP address of 54. So that way we will know the IP address. This is called practicing the standards. Okay, and the subnet, I know it is the same. 192.168.1.1 is a gateway. In a real-time environment, when you get to work, this information is provided by your network team. You just have to tell them, hey, I need an IP address from the ESX management subnet. Can you give me? Well, they'll give you an IP address along with the subnet, default gateway, and the DNS information. I come to IPv6. I'm just disabling the IPv6 because I'm not using it. And you have to notice it here. Disabling IPv6 require a restart. Fine. Configure DNS. Well, I have a DNS server in our lab. I'm using it. The DNS and the host name of this is amvo-esx-01.idesigned.com. It is a FQDN, and we do not have the alternative DNS, which is a secondary DNS server. I don't have that, so I'm just happy. This is a domain suffix that you need to give. I say idesign.com. That's all. So I've done some configuration change to the management network of the ESX server, that I put the IPv4 to static IP, IPv6 disabled, change the DNS configuration, put the custom DNS suffix. That's all. When I say escape, it is asking me to confirm the changes that I've done, and I have to press yes if I wanted to commit the changes. But if I wanted to discard the changes, I can press N here. I'm pressing S here. Well, I told you, right, since we have done the IPv6 change disabled, then definitely it would go ahead and get restart. While it is getting restart, I can show you when I say ping 192.168.1.158, the earlier IP address, it should not ping actually, since the server is going down. And when the server comes up, that will come up with an IP address of 51. You just keep watching there and see what will happen. So this is 51, this is 158. So the 51 should start responding to the network request that we are sending. By the way, ping is an ICMP request to the ESX server. It sends some test packet to the server, and it will check if the server is responding back to you or not. Well, you see the network IP hasn't changed. I'm surprised why it is not. Well, static IP 51, fine. 192.168.1. I say enter. Yeah, DNS is fine, everything is fine. I say S. So I'm just coming out of it just to confirm. Yeah, the IP address has changed now. I believe I did not. Now you see 158 is not responding now, if you see on the screen, and 51 started responding to us. Okay, so I'm just exiting it. This also. Now I'm just getting into it again to show you the remaining features. I'm doing a full screen here. So we have done the first thing. Second thing is restart the management network. So restart the management network is to restart the management agent of the server. So sometimes you see the RDP status, the remote desktop service in your system will not work. So when the service is in stop state, you would certainly cannot connect to it to using the remote desktop protocol. So it is similar to it. If the host is not responding to you to your vSphere client sessions, when you try to put your host name and IP, sorry, your host name or IP, username and password in the vSphere client, you try to access it, that will throw an error that says the client is not, I mean, the ESX host is not responding. That's when you probably have to come here and restart the management agent of the ESX server. Okay, so test the management network connectivity is basically to check if the host is on the network or not. When I ping it, I should be able to ping the IP address 1, 2 will not be because the DNS server is off state now. And of course, I did not create any DNS entries. I'll show it to you tomorrow. How can you create a DNS entry? Okay, you see, yeah, that's expected. 1.2 is not power on, it is power off. The hostname resolution should also not happen because the DNS entry is not yet created. Okay, that is an expected behavior, but it is able to reach the gateway 1.1, that's fine. Network restore option is to restore the configuration changes whatever we have done so far. It is like resetting the network configuration, right? Reset to the default. The configure the keyboard is the one that you saw, the default US keyboard, right? Troubleshooting options, I'll come back there. System logs is to check the log files. On the right hand side, if you see, if you press 1, it will take you to the system logs. Press 2, it will take you to the VM kernel logs. 3, config logs. So though you have an option here, I really don't, I mean, no administrator will come here and use these options in order to log in and check the log files. So we always feel free to go to the PuTTY session and log in there, so that is a easy console that is a easy way to analyze the log files, because most of your Linux commands work there, so that you can send the pipe command, pipe, or you can use the grep to find a particular keyword that you're looking in the log file. And from then the support information, if at all you have to log a support case with VMware, like it is mentioned here, vmware.com/support is a site that you need to go there. You provide your customer ID and it will let you create a support request if at all you have valid contract with them. Reset system configuration is a factory reset. It resets everything, that includes your data and everything. So the other option that you find here is a network resetting. The network settings restore the IP address whatever we've configured, but the reset system configuration is a factory reset. It will be a brand new machine for you. Got it? Coming back to the troubleshooting options over here, coming to the troubleshooting options here, it says ESXi shall enable ESXi shall. So this means there is, apart from the graphical user interface that you're seeing now, there is a command line interface as well. So if I just disconnect it, if I just exit the full screen, and if I say escape, when I come out of it, I say Alt plus F1 key combination on the screen, and it gives me a blank screen. Okay, it gives me a blank screen. Because it is disabled at this point of time. I am pressing Alt F2 key again on my screen, key combination. I log in again here. I go to the same troubleshooting option, and I say at this point of time, you can clearly see here the status is disabled. I'm just pressing enter over there so that it turn enable. I just exit over here from here. I say Alt plus F1 again. This time it is asking me for the credentials. I say put the root user, the password. Password will never be shown to you. Don't think that your keyboard is not working. So now we have logged into the server. I say host name. There you can see amvo-esx01 is the name, and you can see VMware version -v is a command that will show you the version details of the ESX server, and certainly you can see the partition details and you can see everything over there. Okay, so the partition details, the file system details that you have got, everything can be seen from the command line interface. It is the same thing that you can I mean, the same commands can be executed using the PuTTY as well. I'm just exiting from here, and I'm pressing Alt F2 on my screen to just to come out of it. I'm pressing F2 to log in again. So this is to access the local command line. Okay, so when I go to troubleshooting options again, the second option is enable SSH. Okay, that is exactly where the PuTTY is working for you. If I go to PuTTY, connection was refused, right? Let me restart the session again. See what it says. You see, connection refused. So let me go here. I say at this point of time it is disabled. I'm just saying enter over there, so it turn enable. Come back to PuTTY, say restart this session. Now it is throwing you the same SSL warning, and it prompt you with the username, and it will ask you for the password. You just go there, give your password, and it should actually work for you. Let me make it full screen. You see, hostname -v, right? So commands are same in using the Linux, using the ESX direct console or using the PuTTY, but PuTTY is most convenient way of executing the commands. You can certainly copy paste the command from the internet. If you find a KB article, you can easily do that, but using the ESX direct console you cannot do that. That's an advantage. So alternatively, the same setting that you have done using the ESX server, right? You can also go to vSphere client here. You can go to vSphere client. Now that we have changed the IP address to 51, that is a static IP. You can certainly go to the configuration tab over here, and you can go to the security profile over here, and in the right hand side you have the properties. You see the SSH is running now. You can go to options. You just can stop it here. You can start it, you can stop it, you can do anything. The same setting over there in the direct console. If you see, I mean, let me say exit, and if I try to connect to it again, it will definitely connection refused. Okay, and if I wanted to allow it again, I just say start. Okay, and let me do a restart this session. Now you see it is just allowing you to do it. I mean port number 20T is not that secure. It is little risky. So that's the reason part of the best practices, they will just disable it. Okay, so that is about your different ways of accessing it and doing the configuration change. Certainly in the vSphere client, if you see here the licensed features, it is in evaluation mode, so all features that are part of the top class licensing in the VMware can be used part of your evaluation. You can go to time configuration. You can certainly synchronize your server with the time server that you have in your office. So what I always do is I enable the time configuration. I certainly go to settings. I add my DNS server here, or my Active Directory over here, domain controller 1.2. So all my servers will get sync with my my DNS server. So at this point of time 1.2 is not running, so it cannot get sync, but yeah, going forward it will. So the routing and DNS details, whatever we put using the direct console of the ESX server, the same configuration change can be done using the vSphere client as well. Okay, you can do the configuration change using this console, or the same can be done over there. The same host name, IP address, that I mean the host name, domain name, IP address that we set, the preferred DNS, everything is same. Okay, of course we put the gateway and everything the same, but it is using the vSphere client, and the other is using your direct console. So this is it, guys. I would request all of you to go ahead and practice it using the lab, using I just ping you the lab, notes, the whatever I write here, I ping you on the chart window, you copy it, and refer to the downloadable link that I sent to you, all your email IDs. Use that, practice it, and by tomorrow you should be done with this practical. Okay, and tomorrow we will be talking about the networking concepts of ESX server. So do you guys have any doubts